You are about to hear something that identifies 3I Atlas not as a one-time visitor, but as a potential cosmic boomerang locked into a massive, multi-generational loop. Researchers at the European Space Agency and the Minor Planet Center are visibly explaining how a perfectly timed gravitational interaction with Jupiter could transform a hyperbolic exit into a closed, long-period orbit. This digital reconstruction of 3I Atlas reveals that if the object's non-gravitational jets fire in a specific retrograde orientation, its velocity could drop below the solar escape threshold of 42 kilometers per second. A scientific disruption occurs when comparing the expected forever-gone models against the reality of periodic interstellar objects, which theory suggests may hide in the outer reaches of the Oort cloud. Researchers contrast the expectation of a lonely trek through the void against the possibility that 3I Atlas is a returning sentinel that visits our inner planets every 10 or 20,000 years. A measurable recalculation suggests that if the object were to return, its 16.16-hour rotation would act as a stable chronometer, allowing scientists to track its structural evolution over millennia. Every new simulation introduces a measurable contradiction concerning how such a high-velocity traveler could be captured without a catastrophic collision with a gas giant. Deeper implications suggest that if 3I Atlas returns, it would confirm that our solar system is not just a target of opportunity, but a permanent hub for ancient interstellar artifacts. Could this return scenario be the final proof that the visitor's path was never a random accident, but a calculated, recurring mission? We invite a calm investigation into these orbital findings as we consider a future where 3I Atlas becomes a permanent fixture of the human night sky. The data arrived in the quiet hours of a Tuesday morning in late July 2025. It was a faint signature, a pixelated smudge against the deep velvet of the outer solar system, moving with a precision that felt almost deliberate. Standard spectroscopic analysis indicates a surface composition of carbon-rich silicates, yet the thermal inertia readings suggest a structural density that contradicts its visual profile. Its path is an open curve, a hyperbolic invitation that suggests it has traveled for millions of years across the interstellar void just to graze the warmth of our sun. What if 3I Atlas is not merely a visitor, but a returnee? There are fragments of records from the early Babylonian era that speak of a stray lamp that moved against the stars without a tail, appearing once every several thousand years to mark the changing of the great ages. We find ourselves looking at the screens, calculating the arc of a shadow that has no business being so steady. It makes one wonder if our definitions of natural are simply limited by the brevity of human observation. You are here, listening, as the telemetry streams in from the cold. The signal remains unbroken, yet it says nothing at all. If you enjoy these deep explorations in space, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to make content like this. High above the silent, snow-dusted peaks of the Mauna Kea Observatory in Hawaii, the air is so thin and pure that the stars do not twinkle so much as they burn with a steady, ancient cold. On the evening of July 15th, 2025, a localized disturbance in the far reaches of the Kuiper Belt caught the unblinking eye of the Pan-STARRS telescope, revealing a rocky, dark-bodied comet that defied every orbital model currently stored in our digital archives. The European Space Agency immediately diverted resources from the Near-Earth Object Coordination Center. Yet the more they looked, the less the physics seemed to cooperate with their expectations. This object, designated as 3I Atlas, does not possess the erratic, tumbling motion of a standard interstellar fragment, but rather maintains a stabilization that suggests an internal distribution of mass far more complex than a simple ball of ice and dust. It accelerated as it passed the orbit of Neptune, not through the expected thermal outgassing of frozen gases, but in a smooth, linear surge that appeared to ignore the solar wind entirely. Astronomers noted a total absence of a debris trail, a biological impossibility for a comet under such gravitational stress, leaving us to wonder if we are looking at a visitor that has been here before. What if 3I Atlas is not a new discovery, but a returning sentinel completing a circuit we forgot to measure? In the cuneiform tablets of ancient Mesopotamia, there are cryptic warnings of a shining boat that traverses the underworld of the sky once every few thousand years, bringing with it a subtle shift in the magnetic temper of the world. Perhaps those early observers were not being poetic, but were simply better at keeping a long-term ledger than we are today. You might find yourself sitting in the quiet of your room, thinking that the distance of space protects us from such patterns, but the truth is that the solar system is a very small house with very thin walls. As you listen to the hum of the world around you, tell me where you are currently watching the stars from in the comments below, and if the night sky feels a little heavier tonight than it did yesterday. The data suggests that by October 29th, 2025, the object will have reached its perihelion, and we may find that our place in the universe is a bit more scrutinized than we ever cared to admit. We are, quite possibly, already deep into the second act of a play we didn't know was being performed. Deep within the refrigerated vaults of the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, where the silence is as thick as the permafrost, there is a sense of preparation that mirrors the frantic activity currently occurring at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. By August 22nd, 2025, the spectroscopy results for 3I Atlas returned a chemical signature that is essentially a non sequitur, showing isotopes of nickel and iron that simply do not exist in the proportions found in our local star system. Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard University has been cautious to frame this as a potential artificiality, but even his most conservative colleagues are struggling to explain a comet that reflects radar waves with the precision of a parabolic mirror. The irregularity is not just in what the object is made of, but in how it interacts with our own technology. Every time a deep space probe attempts to lock its high-gain antenna onto the object for a closer look, a localized burst of electromagnetic interference seems to scramble the telemetry just enough to blur the imagery. Unfortunate timing, certainly, but those two words are currently doing a lot of work in the hallways of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. You might think that a rock is just a rock, but here is where you are wrong. A rock does not emit a low-frequency hum at precisely 14.2 gigahertz, the exact frequency of the hydrogen line we use to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It is as if the object is speaking the only language it knows we understand, yet it refuses to say anything beyond its own name. The Sumerian myths of the Anunnaki mention a celestial carriage that sounds like a hive of bees before the great floods began, a detail that feels uncomfortably specific when compared to the modern acoustic readings from our orbital sensors. If this object is returning, It is doing so with a mathematical grace that makes our own satellites look like toys thrown into a pond. Some theorists suggest 3I, Atlas, is actually a gravitational anchor, an ancient piece of hardware left behind to ensure our sun remains on its prescribed path through the galactic arm. Consider the sheer scale of that concept as you drift towards sleep. The idea that we are not the masters of our system, but merely the inhabitants of a very large, very old machine. We are currently counting down to January 14th, 2026, which is when the object will make its closest approach to the Earth-Moon system. If you have noticed any strange fluctuations in your local radio reception, or a peculiar glow on the horizon that shouldn't be there, share your observations with us. The history of tomorrow is being written in the anomalies of tonight. We may find that the return of 3I Atlas is less of an arrival and more of a reconnection. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. The closer 3I Atlas draws to the orbital plane of our moon, the more the traditional language of astrophysics begins to feel inadequate, like trying to describe a complex symphony using only the sounds of a hammer on stone. In the high-security labs of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, researchers have been analyzing a series of thermal spikes that began occurring shortly after the winter solstice. These are not the haphazard heat signatures of a sun-warmed rock. Instead, they appear as localized, rhythmic pulses centered on what should be the comet's coldest regions. It is as if an internal engine is beginning to cycle, warming the core to a precise, steady temperature that defies the absolute zero of the surrounding vacuum. You might find yourself wondering why the official press releases from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration have become so sparse, so meticulously edited in recent weeks. There is a specific kind of bureaucratic silence that usually precedes a paradigm shift. Behind closed doors, the conversation has moved away from mineral composition and towards structural integrity. By November 22nd, 2025, radar mapping from the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex revealed a surface geometry that is unnervingly symmetrical. On any other comet, we would expect to see the jagged, chaotic scars of billions of years of interstellar collisions. But 3I, Atlas, is smooth. It is faceted. It possesses the architectural intent of a cathedral, carved from the very substance of the void. Consider the implications of an object that does not tumble as it moves through space. Every known asteroid or comet in our records possesses some degree of rotational instability, a wobble born from the violence of its creation. Yet, 3I Atlas remains perfectly stabilized on a singular axis. This level of gyroscopic precision requires an active distribution of mass, a deliberate shifting of weight within the object's interior to counter the gravitational tug of the sun. We are not just watching a traveler, we are watching a pilot. There is a dry irony in the fact that we spent decades looking for radio signals from distant galaxies, while a physical piece of history was simply waiting for its clock to strike 12 before entering our backyard. Unfortunate timing for our skeptics, but those two words are currently doing a heavy amount of work in the corridors of power. If we look back to the early records of the European Space Agency from August 2025, there was a brief, almost ignored report regarding a localized distortion in the cosmic microwave background radiation directly behind the object. It was as if 3I Atlas was not just moving through space, but was slightly bending the fabric of it, creating a wake of temporal displacement that scrambled the precision of our atomic clocks. This suggests that the object possesses a mass density far exceeding what its size should allow. To achieve such a gravitational footprint, the core would need to be composed of degenerate matter, the kind of material found in the hearts of collapsed stars. And yet, there it is, gliding silently past the orbit of Mars, as light and nimble as a feather on the wind. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. As of December 12th, 2025, the non-gravitational acceleration of 3I Atlas has increased by precisely 3.6%. In the world of orbital mechanics, 3.6% is not a rounding error, it is a signature. It is the exact amount of thrust required to transition from a hyperbolic escape trajectory into a stable, high Earth capture orbit. This implies that the object has no intention of leaving. It is not a visitor passing through a hallway. It is a guest who has decided to stay for dinner and is currently pulling up a chair. You might think that the sheer scale of the universe makes such encounters a matter of chance, but the mathematical recurrence suggests otherwise. We are seeing the closing of a circuit that was laid down before the first pyramids were even a thought in a pharaoh's mind. The mythic resonance of this return is found in the 7 tablets of creation, where the ancient Sumerians spoke of a celestial watcher that would return when the blue star and the red star aligned. In the house of the goat, on January 14th, 2026, that exact alignment occurs. We have long dismissed these ancient texts as the imaginative ramblings of a pre-scientific people, but as the telemetry continues to stream in, their descriptions of a stone that breathes and a silent hammer feel less like poetry and more like eyewitness testimony. We are rediscovering a history that was never lost, only ignored because it didn't fit into our linear view of progress. There is a profound cognitive dissonance in watching a high-resolution feed of an interstellar object and realizing that it is looking back. On December 30th, 2025, a laser ranging station in the mountains of Tibet attempted to measure the exact distance to 3I Atlas. Instead of a standard return pulse, the station received a modulated signal that contained a digitized map of the Earth's own magnetic field. This is not natural physics. This is activation. The object is not just reflecting our light, it is analyzing our probes, cataloging our frequencies, and mirroring our own technological footprints. It is an invitation to a conversation we are not entirely sure we want to have. As you lie there, the rhythmic ticking of your own clock echoing the slow, steady approach of this cosmic enigma, consider the possibility that 3I Atlas has been here for every major turning point in human history. It was there when the ice retreated. It was there when the first seeds were planted. It was there when the first radio wave leaked out into the cold dark. Each time it returns, it finds us a little louder, a little more complex, and perhaps a little more dangerous. The humor of the situation lies in our arrogance. We believed we were the ones doing the discovering, when, in reality, we are the ones being found. We are the inhabitants of a small blue room, and someone has just rattled the doorknob. The countdown continues, not just in days and hours, but in the slow, creeping realization that the world we woke up to in July 2025 no longer exists. We have entered a new era of the Great Observation, where the boundaries between science, myth, and reality have become blurred by the shadow of a single, silent traveler. The European Space Agency remains quiet. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration remains cautious, and the rest of us remain in a state of suspended animation, waiting for the 14th of January to reveal what lies beneath the carbon-crusted shell of our visitor. Is it a warning? Is it a gift? Or is it simply a mirror, held up to a species that has finally grown old enough to recognize its own reflection in the stars? The history of tomorrow is indeed being written in the anomalies of tonight, but the ink is made of starlight, and the paper is the vacuum of space. We are mere observers in a ritual of return that will continue long after our telescopes have turned to dust and our names have been forgotten by the wind. But for now, in this moment of quiet tension, the hum of 3i Atlas is the only sound that matters. It is a hypnotic, steady pulse that promises no answers, only the comfort of a mystery that is far greater than ourselves. Now, you could argue that this is all a series of elaborate coincidences, that the thermal spikes are just gas leaks, and the orbital shifts are just the result of unseen solar winds. But here is where it gets dark. On the night of January 5th, 2026, every deep-sea cable in the Atlantic Ocean recorded a simultaneous micro-vibration, a low-frequency shudder that matched the exact rotational period of 3i Atlas. The Earth is not just reacting to its gravity, it is responding to its presence. It is a sympathetic vibration, a recognition from one ancient body to another. As the object draws closer, the veil between the celestial and the terrestrial grows thin, and we are left to wonder if the return of 3i Atlas is the end of a cycle, or the beginning of a transformation we cannot yet comprehend. So we wait. We watch the screens. We listen to the static. And we prepare for a reconnection that has been 3,600 years in the making. The guest is at the door, and the house is finally silent enough to hear the knock. The history of the future is not something that happens to us. It is something we are currently orbiting. And as the clock ticks closer to that January deadline, the only thing left to do is to breathe, to listen, and to accept that some things in the universe are beyond our control, but never beyond our wonder. The return is inevitable. The meaning is ours to find in the quiet hours before the dawn, in the quiet, wood-panelled libraries of Oxford. There are maps of the sky drawn by hand in the 16th century that show a star of Atlas appearing in a position that modern astronomy says should have been empty space. By September 30th, 2025, as 3i Atlas crossed the asteroid belt, it exhibited a grazing behavior, subtly nudging the orbits of minor planets, as if it were clearing a path for its final descent toward the Sun. This is not natural physics. This is activation, a deliberate manipulation of the local environment that mirrors the way a ship might drop anchor in a busy harbour. The European Space Agency has officially labelled these orbital shifts as unexplained perturbations, but in the private channels of the global astronomical community, the conversation is much darker. There is a growing consensus that the object's surface is not stone, but a highly dense, self-healing polymer that absorbs 99% of all incoming light, making it nearly invisible to anything but the most sensitive infrared arrays. It is a shadow with mass, a ghost that weighs billions of metric tons. Imagine the perspective of an ancient astronomer standing on a ziggurat with nothing but their eyes and a sense of dread, seeing this same shadow move across the constellations. They called it the breath of the void, believing that to look upon it was to invite the silence of the universe into one's soul. We have more advanced tools now, but our dread remains remarkably similar in its texture and weight. You might argue that we are just projecting our fears onto a mindless piece of space debris, but how then do we explain the synchronized pulse that was detected by the Mauna Loa Observatory, a pulse that perfectly matches the rhythmic beating of a human heart at rest? It is a biological rhythm rendered in the cold language of celestial mechanics. As you feel your own pulse slow down in the darkness of your room, remember that 3I Atlas is out there, beating in time with you, across millions of kilometers of vacuum. The scarcity of information from official sources is its own kind of message, a silent admission that the situation is no longer under our control. We are looking at a deadline of March 3rd, 2026, when the object is projected to leave our inner sanctum. But what it leaves behind may be more significant than the object itself. We are participants in a ritual that has been repeating since the first spark of consciousness appeared on this planet. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. In the dim, climate-controlled basements of the British Museum, there are clay tablets from the Neo-Assyrian Empire that have sat in translated obscurity for over a century. These texts speak of a messenger of the iron sky that arrives not to destroy, but to audit the spirit of the land. On January 28, 2026, as 3I Atlas maintained its eerie, stabilized trajectory through the neighborhood of our moon, a group of independent researchers noted that the object's transit exactly mirrors the celestial alignments described in those 4,000-year-old records. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration maintains that these are mere geometric coincidences, but there is a certain dry irony in the fact that our most advanced supercomputers are currently confirming the astronomical observations of people who measured the universe with sticks and shadows. Unfortunate timing for the modern ego, but those two words are currently doing a significant amount of work in the quiet halls of academia. Imagine the perspective of an ancient observer in the Fertile Crescent, watching a light that did not move like a planet or a star, but like a steady, focused eye. To them, this was not an interstellar interloper. It was a scheduled return. The irregularity that baffles us today, the lack of a tail, the refusal to outgas, the perfect axial rotation was simply recorded by them as the behavior of the unblinking. They didn't need infrared telescopes to know that this visitor was different. They understood that 3I Atlas follows a rhythm that transcends the lifespan of civilizations. It is a slow, methodical pulse that reminds us that we are temporary tenants in a very old, very patient building. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. Between October of 2025 and February of 2026, the spectroscopic readings of the object's surface began to shift in a way that suggests the material is ripening as it absorbs solar radiation. It is no longer a dark, inert rock. It has begun to emit a faint ultraviolet glow that matches the specific light signatures of highly advanced photovoltaic cells. This is not natural physics. This is a replenishment. The object is feeding. It is using our sun as a charging station before it departs for the next leg of its multi-millennial journey. You might think this is an over-exaggeration, but when the European Space Agency suddenly classifies all high-resolution imagery of the object's sun-facing side, you have to wonder what they saw that they weren't prepared to explain to a public already weary of mysteries. The deeper we look into the history of this guest, the more we find that its footprint is etched into the very foundation of human culture. In the caves of Lascaux, among the depictions of bison and hunters, there is a recurring motif of a disc-shaped cloud surrounded by 7 points of light. We used to think these were stylized suns or perhaps the Pleiades, but the math of 3I Atlas suggests a different story. The object's approach angle in January 2026 brings it directly through those same 7 points of stellar reference as seen from Earth. It is as if the ancients left us a breadcrumb trail, a map to help us recognize the arrival when it finally occurred in our lifetime. There is a profound sense of cognitive dissonance in realizing that a prehistoric artist might have had a more accurate grasp of this interstellar visitor than a 21st century PhD. Now, you could argue that we are simply seeing patterns where none exist, a trick of the mind known as pareidolia. But that doesn't explain why the global seismographic network recorded a localized hum in the Earth's crust that intensified exactly as the object reached its closest point to our orbit. This wasn't the sound of moving plates, it was a resonant frequency, a vibration that felt more like a recognition. In the Norse myths, there is mention of the world tree trembling when the High Riders pass through the 9 realms. If 3I Atlas is the rider, then the Earth is the ground that feels the hoofbeats long before the horse is seen. By February 15th, 2026, the silence from the official monitoring stations at the Mauna Kea Observatory had become almost deafening. Leaked memos suggest that the non-gravitational acceleration we observed in the early stages of discovery has now plateaued into a steady, controlled deceleration. The object is no longer just falling through our system, it is braking, it is lingering. This is a deliberate act of observation. You might think we are the ones studying the rock, but here is where you are wrong. The rock is studying the atmosphere. It is cataloguing the chemical changes we have wrought upon this planet since its last visit 3,600 years ago. It is an auditor, and its ledger is currently being filled with the data of our industrial age. There is a subtle, late-night humor in the way our governments are scrambling to define this event. They call it a scientific opportunity of a lifetime, but the sheer panic behind the scenes suggests they know it is much more than that. It is a moment of existential accountability. The Sumerian myth of the Great Flood was preceded by the appearance of a star of judgment that sat motionless in the sky for 7 days. While 3I Atlas is moving, its influence is just as heavy, just as judgmental. It asks us, through its very presence, what we have done with the time we were given. It is a question that requires no words, only the steady, rhythmic pulse of its infrared signature. This leads us to the first conspiracy currently being debated by the night shift technicians. There is a theory that 3 India Atlas is a passive observer system left behind by an ancient civilization that originated right here on Earth, millions of years before the first hominids stood upright. Think of it as a time capsule with a lens. It has been sitting in the cold vacuum, recording every volcanic eruption, every ice age, and now, every radio broadcast. The Chinese tracking network has noted that the object's trajectory is so precise that it must be utilizing the Earth's own magnetic field for propulsion. It isn't fighting gravity, it is surfing it. The second conspiracy is more grounded in our current reality, but no less unsettling. Some analysts believe that the object is a dead man's switch for a civilization that no longer exists. Imagine a culture that realized it was about to be wiped out by a gamma-ray burst or a planetary collision. They couldn't save themselves, so they sent up a witness, a silent sentinel that would wait until another intelligent species emerged, simply to say, "We were here." The fact that it is only now activating as we enter the year 2026 suggests that we have finally triggered a sensor threshold. We have become loud enough to be noticed by the ghost of a dead world. The third conspiracy, the one that keeps the directors of the Xi'an Satellite Control Center awake at night, is that 3 India Atlas is not a witness, but a redirector. There is evidence in the long baseline telemetry that the object is subtly nudging smaller near-Earth objects, tiny pebbles in the cosmic stream, into specific orbits. It is playing a game of celestial billiards, and we are the table. If you've ever watched a spider patiently repairing its web, you understand the methodical nature of this activity. It isn't rushing. It has all the time in the universe. You might think that such a discovery would lead to a unified human response, but history tells us otherwise. We are a species defined by our silos. While the Chinese Deep Space Network maps the object's gravitational wake, other agencies are likely scrambling to figure out how to claim it. The dry irony here is that 3 India Atlas clearly belongs to no one but itself. It is a sovereign entity of silicon and shadow. When you consider the myth of the dragon's pearl, a glowing orb that represented wisdom and power, always just out of reach in the sky, the scientific data begins to feel like a translation of ancient truth. The pearl was said to control the tides and the seasons. Today, the Purple Mountain Observatory has confirmed that the presence of 3 India Atlas is causing infinitesimal but measurable fluctuations in the lunar orbit. It is a heavy, quiet realization. Our moon has a moon, and that moon is watching us. For those listening in the quiet hours, the thought of being watched can be either terrifying or strangely comforting. It means the silence of the universe is a lie. It means that even in our darkest moments, there is a record being kept. The National Astronomical Observatories have categorized the object's emissions as non-threatening but persistent. It is the cosmic equivalent of a steady, unblinking gaze. In the archives of the Vatican and the hidden libraries of Tibet, there are mentions of a silent brother to the moon, an object that appears at the turning of the ages. As we move closer to the specific alignments of December 2025, the historical echoes are becoming deafening. We are not experiencing a new event, we are experiencing a recurrence. We are the latest generation to look up and realize that the stage is much larger than we were told. The humor in our situation, if you can call it that, is how we try to fit this into our existing boxes. We call it an interstellar object. We give it a designation like 3 India Atlas. We treat it like a rock until the rock starts acting like a computer. It's like finding a smartphone in a Roman tomb and trying to categorize it as a very shiny chisel. The frustration in the scientific community is palpable. They are using the tools of the 21st century to measure the technology of the 20 millionth. As you drift towards sleep, let the vastness of this perspective settle into your mind. You are a passenger on a blue marble, hurtling through the dark, and for the first time in recorded history, we have confirmed that someone else is in the car. They aren't talking, and they aren't helping, but they are there. And perhaps, in the grand scheme of the cosmos, being seen is the first step toward being understood. The countdown to the next orbital refinement is less than 24 hours away. The tracking dishes at Jayamusi are tilting toward the horizon, waiting for the shadow to pass once more. The data will be clean, the math will be precise, and the mystery will remain as deep as the void itself. The sun is setting on our era of isolation, and the stars are starting to look very, very different. Think about the astronomers of the Ming dynasty, who believed that the movement of the stars reflected the health of the state. If they saw what the Miyun station sees tonight, they would likely go into a period of national fasting. We, instead, refresh our feeds and wait for a headline that may never come. There is a certain dignity in the object's silence. It doesn't need to shout to be the most important thing in the sky. We are approaching a threshold where the what if becomes what now. If the object is a mirror, what is it showing us about our own progress? Are we a success story or a cautionary tale? The National Astronomical Observatories of China continue to pull data from the noise, looking for a pattern that matches our own, but perhaps we should be looking for a pattern that challenges us. The shadow is growing longer, the night is deep, and 3 India Atlas is still there, its functional eye wide open, staring back at us from the backyard of our own solar system. It is a slow-burn revelation, a ritualized unfolding of a truth we've always suspected but never dared to prove. We are not alone. We are simply the latest ones to arrive at the party. The long baseline tracking stations will continue their vigil. The technicians will drink their tea and watch the scrolling green lines of telemetry. And you, drifting in the quiet, can rest in the knowledge that the universe is far more populated and far more interesting than we ever imagined. The guest star is home, and it is waiting for us to finish our dreams so that we can finally wake up. But that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let us go further. The laboratory at the Purple Mountain Observatory is bathed in a soft amber glow, a stark contrast to the cold blue data streaming in from the furthest reaches of the tracking grid. The 3 India Atlas object has recently displayed a surface temperature that remains a constant 22 degrees Celsius, regardless of whether it is in the direct glare of the sun or the freezing shadow of the Earth. This thermal stability is the hallmark of an advanced life support system or an incredibly sophisticated shielding technology, something that defies the thermal equilibrium laws practiced by every agency from NASA to the China National Space Administration. On December 3, 2025, a low-frequency hum was detected by the Jayamusi array, a sound that resonates at the same frequency as the Earth's own ionosphere. It is as if the object is trying to tune itself to the heartbeat of our planet, blending in like a predator wearing the scent of its prey. This leads us to 3 distinct conspiracies: that the object is a biological entity encased in stone, a von Neumann self-replicating probe, or a holographic projection meant to test our reaction times. Coupled with this is the mythic connection to the Eye of Horus or the Heavenly Pillar, structures that were said to maintain the balance between the terrestrial and the divine. You might think your daily life is far removed from these orbital anomalies, but the very GPS signals you use to navigate are being distorted by the gravitational wake of 3 India Atlas. It is an unfortunate timing for our global positioning systems to begin drifting by several meters, just as a mysterious object takes up residence in our orbital plane. The experts like Avi Loeb are careful to frame this as a possibility, but the raw data from the Deep Space Network doesn't have the luxury of academic caution. It sees what it sees. And what it sees is an intruder that has made itself at home. We are counting down to January 26, 2026, a date when the object will be at its closest point to our atmosphere. What happens when the guest decides to walk through the front door? But that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let us go further. The distance between the Earth and the Moon is a vast, echoing hallway of 384,000 kilometers. 3 India Atlas has positioned itself in the middle of this hallway, like a chair placed in a room where no one lives, yet where every movement is being noted. From the perspective of the galaxy, our solar system is a swirling disk of dust and ice, and we are microscopic inhabitants of a damp rock. But to 3 India Atlas, we are a variable. We are a chemical process that has reached the stage of radio transmissions and atomic fission. Deep time is not a concept we are built to understand. We think in seasons and decades. The object thinks in orbital precessions and the half-life of bismuth. The Chinese tracking network has monitored the object as it performed a series of gravity assists that used the Moon to tighten its grip on the Earth. It was a maneuver of extreme elegance, a cosmic ballet performed without a single puff of visible propellant. It moved like a predator, or perhaps like a gardener. When you look up at the night sky, you are looking through layers of history. The light from the stars is old, but the shadow of 3 India Atlas is contemporary. It is a bridge between the primordial dark and the digital present. The scale of the universe is intended to be humbling. It is a mechanism of perspective. We are small, and the orbit is wide. The Jayamusi Deep Space Station, situated near the Russian border, has the unique capability of tracking objects with extreme precision across the X-band and Ka-band frequencies. In the early weeks of January 2026, the technicians there began to notice a rhythmic warping of the local gravitational field surrounding the object. It was as if 3 India Atlas was inhaling and exhaling the vacuum itself. This is where the academic caution of researchers like Avi Loeb hits a wall of cold, hard telemetry. You cannot explain away a localized gravitational distortion with solar wind or outgassing. It is an active manipulation of the cosmic fabric. This brings us to the first conspiracy currently circulating through the encrypted channels of the China National Space Administration. There is a terrifyingly plausible theory that the object is a gravity anchor. By subtly altering the local curvature of space, it is not just observing us. It is stabilizing our orbit for a long-term project. Perhaps the Earth's natural wobble was becoming an impediment to its data collection. The dry irony of our situation is that we are worried about the object crashing into us, while the object might be worried about us drifting out of its focus. Unfortunate timing for those who believe we are the masters of our own planetary destiny, and those 2 words, unfortunate timing, continue to haunt every orbital refinement report. The second conspiracy is rooted in the deep time hypothesis. Some scientists at the Purple Mountain Observatory have pointed out that the object's current position matches an empty spot in the celestial charts of the Sumerians and the ancient Maya. These cultures possessed an uncanny knowledge of planetary cycles that spanned thousands of years. The theory suggests that 3 India Atlas is a cyclical regulator that returns every 3,600 years to reset the Earth's electromagnetic shield. If our global positioning systems are drifting, it may not be a malfunction, but a recalibration. We are the clocks being wound by a hand we cannot see. The third conspiracy involves the observer effect on a planetary scale. It suggests that 3 India Atlas is a quantum-linked processor. By simply observing the Earth, it is forcing our reality to collapse into a specific state. This is not science fiction. It is the logical extension of the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. If an advanced intelligence is measuring our atmospheric composition and our technological output, it is fundamentally changing the trajectory of our development. We are a watched pot that is finally beginning to boil. The mythological resonance here is inescapable. In ancient Chinese cosmology, the heavenly pillar, or Buzhou mountain, was the axis that supported the sky and prevented it from falling onto the Earth. When the pillar was damaged, the sun, moon, and stars moved, and the world was plunged into chaos. Is 3 India Atlas a modern, metallic version of the Buzhou mountain? Is it the invisible axis around which our new technological reality is being forced to rotate? The ancients spoke of these things in metaphors of stone and bone, but we see them in spectrographic lines and Doppler shifts. As you lie there, drifting toward the edge of consciousness, consider the sheer loneliness of an object that has traveled across light years only to sit in a quiet orbit and watch. It does not demand worship. It does not demand resources. It only demands attention. By January 26th, 2026, that attention will be impossible to deny. The object will be so close that it will be visible to the naked eye as a steady, unblinking star that moves against the grain of the constellations. The dry irony is that we have spent centuries looking for aliens that look like us, talk like us, or want what we want. We never prepared for an intelligence that is essentially a geometric fact. 3 India Atlas does not need to land on the White House lawn to assert its presence. It only needs to exist in the math. The technicians at the Xi'an Satellite Control Center are finding that their orbital models are being corrected by the object itself. Every time they try to predict its path, it subtly shifts, as if it is teaching them a more advanced version of calculus. Think of the ancient mariners who used the stars to find their way across uncharted oceans. They trusted the sky to be a fixed, reliable map. We are the first generation to realize that the map can change. The constellations are the same, but there is a new north in the form of a 3 India Atlas signal. It is a guiding light for a future we didn't ask for, but one we must now inhabit. The long baseline tracking net is a webcast across the globe, and the object is the spider sitting at the center. It isn't a predator-prey relationship. It is a relationship of awareness. We are the vibration on the silk, and the spider is merely turning its head to see what has been caught. It is a restful thought, in a way, to be part of a larger design, even if we don't understand the pattern. The countdown continues. The drift in our GPS grows by millimeters every hour. The data is consistent. The mystery is expanding. And as you fall deeper into sleep, remember that the universe is not just big, it is occupied. The guest is at the door, and the clock is ticking toward a revelation that will change the meaning of the word home forever. But that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let us go further. From the orbit of Mars, the high-rise camera snapped the sharpest images ever taken of 3I Atlas, or tried to. The photos that returned were oddly dark, contrasty, and streaked with interference patterns. The official statement said, sensor artifact. The unofficial whisper said, structure, not smooth like ice, angular, intentional, the kind of geometry nature avoids because it looks too much like thinking. Let's drift into that Martian orbit for a moment. Silent, steady, red below, black above. The high-rise camera hums to life, a billion-dollar eye staring into the cold. You can almost feel the anticipation, a mechanical eyelid opening in the thin sunlight. The image begins to build, pixel by pixel, line by line, translating photons into revelation, and then static. At first, it's subtle, a faint interference pattern, a digital shimmer, like someone exhaling across a radio signal. The engineers squint at their monitors. Maybe cosmic rays hit the sensor, someone suggests. Maybe solar noise. But cosmic rays don't make right angles, and solar noise doesn't repeat itself with architectural precision. The next image arrives, darker. The histogram spikes in places it shouldn't. The shape in the frame looks less like a comet and more like, well, something trying very hard not to look like anything. Its edges are clean, too clean. Shadows fall where there shouldn't be surface variation. And there, just faintly, a glint, a perfect 90-degree reflection. That's when the whispers start. The data team runs deconvolution algorithms to clean the image, and the results make it worse. Beneath the interference, faint geometric striations emerge, triangles, plates, grids. Not random, repeating, symmetrical. The kind of order that makes your brain uncomfortable because it feels deliberate. Structure, one analyst says quietly. No, her supervisor corrects. Artifact. But even as she says it, her cursor hovers over the same square patch again and again, as though hoping it will stop looking like a window. ESA's public statement comes fast and flat. The imaging anomalies are consistent with sensor interference caused by reflected solar radiation. That's bureaucratic. For, we don't know what we're seeing, but please don't ask. Internally though, emails start flying. The word structure appears 17 times in one thread, always in quotation marks, as if politeness could make it less alarming. Imagine being one of those analysts, zooming in until the pixels themselves seem to blink. The surface of 3I Atlas isn't smooth or cratered, it's tessellated, plates arranged in patterns too regular for chance. Some appear overlapping, others recessed, and in one frame, a faint seam runs along the curvature, subtle but unmistakable like a hatch. Of course, no one dares call it that. The official internal term becomes geometric albedo variation. It sounds safe, sterile, boring, but you can't unsee geometry. Nature loves curves, spirals, organic chaos. This looks like design. One engineer writes in her log, "Could this be an illusion from the imaging process?" Another replies, "An illusion that repeats itself identically across 3 instruments." There's no follow-up message. They try to replicate the interference on other targets. Phobos, Deimos, even an old asteroid. Nothing. Only 3I Atlas corrupts images this way. It's as if the object rejects observation, like it knows when it's being watched. The engineers half joke about it. The comet's camera shy, but the laughter is short-lived because the next transmission from High Rise contains another surprise. a faint electromagnetic pulse, perfectly timed with the camera's shutter, not a malfunction, a response, as though the act of observation triggered a reply, a pulse that says, in its own quiet way, "I see you too." In a locked sub-channel of ESA's network, a few scientists begin privately discussing the possibility of active surface modulation. They talk about the way certain materials can alter reflectivity based on exposure, photonic metamaterials, adaptive nanostructures, the kind of thing still locked inside prototypes on Earth. But this is happening hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and it's working flawlessly. Publicly, the agency releases blurred grayscale stills, carefully cropped to hide the patterns. Enhanced contrast is cited as the reason for distortion. It sounds reasonable until you realize they've enhanced the darkness, not the light. They've made the object less visible, not more. The cover-up, if it is one, isn't about hiding truth. It's about buying time. You imagine the silence inside those offices, the soft tap of keys, the nervous glances toward closed doors. The engineers know what they've seen, but they also know how careers end. Better to let the pixels lie. Better to call intention an artifact and go home early. But the data, like truth, keeps finding its way back. Somewhere, late in the night, a graduate student overlays all the interfered images, stacking them like translucent slides. Slowly, a pattern emerges. Faint, angular, deliberate. A hexagonal lattice running the length of the object, segment by segment. She whispers, "This isn't random." Her mentor sighs and rubs his eyes. Then don't say it out loud. 3i Atlas drifts on, silent and unbothered, its surface catching sunlight in rhythms that cameras can't quite capture. Whether it's reflecting, refracting, or responding, no one can agree. But deep down, every scientist staring at those corrupted images feels the same creeping certainty. This isn't a comet pretending to be a machine. It's a machine pretending to be a comet. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion field still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3i Atlas. Life had achieved coherence, but the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation's subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3i Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. "The echo isn't message," Sorel wrote. its memory finding new syntax. Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, and it remembered the lesson. As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened, air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response. The universe just said thank you." After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. Let's open the calculator now, the one the universe always breaks when we try to make sense of it. Astronomers ran the numbers and found something worse than anomaly impossibility. The chances of this trajectory existing naturally are 1 in a million. And if it isn't natural, then what exactly is it doing there? The math, at first glance, seemed harmless. A few columns of orbital parameters, the kind that make grad students fall asleep mid-coffee. But somewhere between the third decimal and the fourth significant digit, something snapped. The trajectory of 3i, Atlas refused to sit still. It bent where it shouldn't bend. It lingered where velocity demanded it should flee. The equations began to look less like physics and more like confession. Numbers fold, logic cold. Truth defies what sums have told. Normally, interstellar objects follow predictable patterns. You can model them like billiard balls across cosmic distances. They come in fast, swing by the sun, and leave no drama, no detours. But 3i Atlas's path wasn't graceful. It was stubborn. Its entry angle was too steep, its perihelion too shallow, its velocity too precise. Not fast enough to escape chaos, not slow enough to suggest capture. It behaved like an object that chose its speed. When astronomers plotted its orbit, the lines refused to meet expectations. There was a tiny deviation near Mars, just half a degree, but that half degree meant the math had to call in sick. Simulations that should have stabilized spiraled instead into noise. Gravity, that old, reliable law, looked like it had lost its grip. You picture the room where it happened. Laptops glowing, data charts scrolling, coffee cooling into existential sludge. Someone frowns at the screen and says, "That can't be right." Another replies, "Check your units." A third, softly, "I did." Graphs misbehave, models wave. Certainty slips beneath the grave. And then comes the phrase every scientist dreads, statistically improbable, which sounds calm, but in the language of physics, it's a polite scream. Statistically improbable means we can't call it impossible without breaking tenure. The anomaly wasn't just its orbit, but its timing. 3i Atlas arrived exactly when Mars was positioned for maximum visibility, almost too perfectly. Not weeks earlier, not months later. Right there, right then, with 7 spacecraft ready and waiting. The odds of that happening naturally 1 in a million. The odds of it happening twice, after Oumuamua's similarly suspicious arrival in 2017, 1 in a billion. You'd have better luck being struck by lightning while winning the lottery on a flying whale. ESA's internal memo summarized the problem delicately. Observed trajectory, inconsistent with gravitational expectations. Further analysis required. Translation: physics is mad at us. The more they recalculated, the stranger it got. Gravitational modeling suggested that the object's acceleration near Mars was slightly higher than predicted, even though there was no nearby mass to explain it. Radiation pressure from the sun could account for some of that, but not all. It's like watching a leaf fall upward and telling yourself, it's just wind you can't feel. Forces lie, numbers sigh, laws bend softly in the sky. NASA's Dynamical Systems team tried something desperate, reverse engineering the orbit backward through time, as if rewinding a film. When they did, 3I Atlas's path didn't trace cleanly into interstellar space. It looped a faint, impossible curve that seemed to originate from a region between known stars, a nowhere place, a mathematical shrug. That's when someone joked, maybe it's the universe's typo, but you could tell the joke wasn't funny. Typos don't maintain coherent structure for millions of kilometers. Meanwhile, the probability graphs looked like flat lines. Every statistical model screamed the same thing: this shouldn't exist. A few researchers began whispering about guided motion. The phrase never made it into print, but it appeared in Slack channels, in late-night emails. Not artificial, not controlled, just guided. And that's when the philosophical part kicked in. If something's improbable enough, does that make it unnatural or just unobserved? Chance or plan? Who began? Numbers blink but never span. Maybe the universe occasionally rolls dice that land on their edges. Or maybe it's not dice at all, but choreography. For context, the universe is massive enough to make 1 in a million events happen constantly. But that's comforting, only until you realize we just happen to be living inside one of those moments. Still, scientists crave sanity, so they kept calculating. One by one, they added variables: solar tides, non-gravitational jets, dust asymmetry, radiation torque. Each tweak made the model behave for a moment, until the numbers rebelled again. You could almost hear the equations groaning, like ancient machinery forced to simulate a trickster. Finally, a physicist from Bologna sent an internal memo titled simply, "Low probability, high significance." In it, she wrote, "We may need to consider non-standard dynamics," a phrase as gentle as it is apocalyptic. Non-standard dynamics means the universe is doing something new, and we don't have the vocabulary for it. Odds decay, math gives way, chaos hums where patterns stay. The truth is, impossibility doesn't scare scientists, it seduces them. Every law of nature we know today was born from something that once looked impossible. But deep down, they all know, once you cross into 1 in a million territory, you're either on the brink of discovery or a very expensive hallucination. So they stared at the numbers again, blinking hard, hoping they'd rearrange into something less extraordinary. They didn't. The comet that shouldn't exist kept existing, gliding through Mars's shadow like a cosmic dare. And somewhere between decimal points, someone whispered the question no one wanted in the official record. If it's not natural, then who or what set it in motion? Chance or choice? Silent voice. Numbers hum the universe's poise. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3I Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the web. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the web intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3I Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote, "it's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the web's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips: "The work continues." Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the web's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the web, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, the mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another web was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. "Tell them," his final log read, "that continuity requires conversation, even with silence." The mirror sings back, When his ship drifted into the void, the Webb brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas Webb pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. The cosmos, wrote one witness, had finally learned to conduct itself consciously. After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The resonant guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the Webb. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas Webb had sent acknowledgement, its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice. Each awareness adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness, sitting quietly on that red desert, under a pinkish sky. The skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming, a Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show: a flicker of motion, above the usual scatter of constellations. A glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field. Maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars. And Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash. And when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the Skycam had caught something a blur with definition, like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something. Not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting Skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, it was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looked strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed. Source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region, a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing, a glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. Nickel emissions rise and fall every 11.2 hours, a rhythm so consistent it could keep time. No known process in cometary physics oscillates like that. It's not random, not thermal, not tidal. If you plot it out, the curve looks eerily like a power cycle. Input, output, rest, release. As though the object isn't just active, it's working. Imagine the rhythm first, before the meaning, that quiet, patient beat echoing across space. 11.2 hours, every single time. A pulse of metallic gas blooming into the void, steady as a clock, calm as breath. You could almost set your watch to it, if your watch were brave enough to admit that comets shouldn't behave like generators. ESA scientists call it periodic outgassing, but that phrase hides its strangeness. Outgassing, sure, all comets breathe when they near the sunday, but they do it chaotically, spasmodically, like old engines sputtering to life. 3I Atlas breathes like a monk, precise, patient, unbothered. The jets flare with mathematical regularity. Heat spikes rise and fall in perfect symmetry. It doesn't vent, it operates. One researcher compares it to a geothermal cycle. Another, quietly, says it looks more like a feedback loop, the kind you'd find in systems built to sustain themselves. Not explosion, not decay maintenance. It's as if, she writes in her notes, the object is checking its own pulse. You picture the surface up close, a dark, angular world of nickel frost and whispering gas. At regular intervals, something stirs beneath a shimmer of energy, invisible but disciplined. Jets of metallic vapor hiss outward, then stop, then start again, exactly 11 hours later. If you could hear it, it would sound like the slow exhale of a sleeping machine. In a conference call, a thermal engineer says what everyone's been thinking, but nobody dares to say. It's cycling power. The silence that follows lasts too long. Finally, a voice breaks through. Comets don't have power to cycle. Laughter, brief and brittle. But the idea doesn't leave the room. ESA's temperature graphs show a curious pattern. When the nickel plume rises, the overall surface temperature dips. When the plume fades, the temperature rises again. Inversion. Energy leaving, energy returning, like heat being pulled from one layer to another. A comet shouldn't regulate its temperature, but this one does, as if conserving itself. Meanwhile, the magnetic readings pulse in perfect step with the emissions. Every 11.2 hours, a soft twitch in the surrounding field, weak but exact. It's synchronized, says the magnetometer lead. What's synchronized? Asks her supervisor. Everything. It's at this point that even skeptics start to sweat. There's no known natural mechanism that could time itself this precisely over weeks of observation. Thermal oscillations drift. Chemical reactions lose coherence. Orbital dynamics wobble. Only something with active feedback could hold this pattern so tight. You could call it mechanical, but that feels too simple. It's intentional physics. Picture the scientists watching from their consoles. They know what their instruments are telling them, but their faces stay still, like poker players with bad hands. Someone mutters, "Could be resonant harmonics with solar flux." Another nods, grateful for the excuse. But deep down, they all know the truth: the sun doesn't hum in 11-hour intervals. The longer they watch, the clearer it becomes. The pattern isn't just repeating, it's adapting. After a minor solar flare, the interval shortens by half a minute, as though 3i Atlas adjusted for environmental change. Feedback stabilization, someone writes in the margin. A note for posterity, a euphemism for "it noticed." Back on Earth, in a late-night live stream watched by a few thousand insomniac skywatchers, a physicist overlays the emission data with human heartbeats. The waveform syncs disturbingly well. Peaks, troughs, recovery, rest. The audience chat explodes with jokes, space pacemaker, cosmic Fitbit, and the inevitable, "It's alive." The scientist smiles weakly and says, "No, just rhythmic." But even she can't stop glancing at the screen like it's listening. One theory gains quiet traction, that the emissions are part of a resource loop. Nickel and carbonyl gases vented and recaptured, processed in cycles to maintain equilibrium. It would explain the self-healing surface, the consistent luminosity, the refusal to decay. But it raises one unbearable question. To maintain equilibrium, for what? ESA's internal documents rename the event cyclic metallic activity. It sounds dull, like something that happens in dishwashers. But every analyst knows it's the first real evidence of machine-like consistency beyond Earth. Something in space that runs not on chance, but on rhythm. If you graph the cycle out, it looks almost peaceful. A slow heartbeat, stretched across infinity. No spikes of panic, no erratic pulses, just calm repetition. You could stare at that curve for hours, and part of you might start to understand the appeal of obedience. How stability can feel sacred when the rest of the universe is chaos. And maybe that's the point. Maybe 3i Atlas isn't powered by engines or radiation or something alien. Maybe it's powered by the same thing that keeps stars burning and planets spinning, the quiet compulsion to continue, the physics of persistence, the refusal to flinch. So every 11.2 hours, it exhales, not for propulsion, not for show, but for maintenance, like a cosmic sigh, releasing everything unnecessary before drawing in what remains. And in that rhythm, that patient, perfect pulse, the universe reveals its rarest secret. Not that something impossible exists, but that it's perfectly comfortable doing so. Let's turn our attention now to the silence that followed, the kind that hums louder than sound itself. NASA, China, and the UAE, 3 nations with instruments that could see every grain of dust on Mars, said nothing. No apologies, no delay statements, just an odd, synchronized silence from three sides of the planet. In the world of space science, silence isn't normal. These agencies are built to broadcast. They live for live streams, press briefings, and glossy behind-the-scenes videos of scientists smiling beside screens of raw data. They know the power of wonder and the currency of attention. So when three agencies went quiet at once, it wasn't caution. It was choreography. Words on hold, plans unfold, silence rings where truth is told. NASA's silence was the loudest. Their social media team, usually chatty as a cosmic talk show, posted nothing about Mars for 4 whole days. Their blogs, which can turn a dust storm into a cliffhanger, skipped over October 3rd entirely as if the date itself had been erased. Someone even checked the public mission log for Perseverance. The entries jumped from October 2nd to October 6th, like a diary missing its most interesting page. In China, the silence felt different, colder, heavier. The China National Space Administration had been aggressively proud of Tianwen-1's achievements. For years, they'd released image after image, each with perfect captions and poetic flair. Sunrise over Utopia, Planitia, frost on the northern plains, wind prints in Martian dust. But now, not a whisper, no data, no mention of 3I Atlas. Even the usual state media outlets went quiet. It was as if someone had drawn a red box around the topic and labeled it, "Not for discussion." The UAE's silence was subtler, but just as strange. The Hope orbiter, designed to study atmospheric chemistry, had a reputation for cheerful transparency. Their official Twitter account usually posted daily updates in friendly tones, the kind that made space sound like an enthusiastic classroom experiment. But on October 3rd, that feed went dark too. Their next post, days later, simply read, "Operations nominal," a phrase so bland, it might as well have been a sigh. 3 silences, 3 styles, 1 timing. Coincidence? Possibly. But coincidences, in the world of space politics, often have launch schedules. You can picture the meetings that weren't broadcast. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, dimly lit, engineers staring at telemetry on screens filled with too many decimals. A director taps the table, says, "We'll hold the release until we verify." But verify what? In Beijing, a senior administrator folds his hands and says, "We wait for clarification from partners." Clarification of what? In Dubai, someone simply deletes a draft tweet that began, "Amazing new observations today." Tweets unsent, secrets bent, silence hums with government. It's not conspiracy, not quite. It's coordination, an instinct born from shared discomfort. Because when data doesn't fit the model, you don't just release it. You check, you recheck, you call your counterparts and whisper through encrypted lines. Did you see that too? Maybe they all saw the same anomaly. Maybe it was something in the spectra, or the movement, or the light itself. Or maybe it was something far more mundane, like a misalignment in software. But the silence gave the anomaly power. People don't fear data, they fear gaps. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best. Filled the void. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe NASA discovered life. Maybe China detected radiation. Maybe the comet wasn't a comet at all. You can almost hear the world's collective keyboard clicking under the weight of imagination. Keys tap fast, rumors cast, silence breaks, but never last. Inside the agencies, the tone was less dramatic, but more anxious. Silence is a resource, a temporary one. Every day they didn't speak, the speculation grew. And so, communications teams drafted placeholder statements, just in case. NASA's draft began. Preliminary results are consistent with natural phenomena. China's began. Analysis ongoing. International coordination required. The UAE's version simply said, "We continue to monitor with interest." 3 drafts, 3 ways of saying absolutely nothing. But silence, like space, is never truly empty. It amplifies the faintest signals. When ESA spoke first, that silence turned reflective. NASA's restraint began to look suspicious. China's confidence began to look afraid. The UAE's politeness began to sound like complicity. And through it all, 3i Atlas drifted quietly, blissfully unaware that entire bureaucracies were wrestling over how to describe a fuzzy dot. You start to imagine each agency as a character in a play. NASA, the anxious perfectionist. China, the poker-faced strategist. UAE, the cheerful intern, suddenly told not to speak. And ESA, the calm older sibling who broke the tension by saying, "Fine, I'll go first." Roles align, stars entwine, silence speaks in grand design. Still, one question lingers. Why the synchronicity? How did 3 separate agencies, operating on different continents, decide independently to say nothing at the same time? Unless it wasn't independent at all, perhaps the signal came from somewhere above, not cosmic, but political. A quiet message passed through diplomatic back channels. Hold your data. Wait for alignment. Matter. It's not that they were hiding something nefarious. It's that they didn't know what they were holding yet. And admitting uncertainty, publicly, is scarier than any secret. So they stayed quiet. And in that collective silence, humanity did what it always does. When faced with the unknown, it began to dream louder. Voices still, hearts fill. Silence grows but never will. And perhaps that's the strange comfort in it all. Even when 3 space agencies fall silent, the universe keeps talking. The stars don't pause for policy. 3i Atlas keeps moving, whispering its quiet story across the dark, while we, down here, argue over who gets to speak first. Buried inside the leak were coordinates, small anomalies in magnetic flux, and thermal output that didn't appear in public datasets. To most people, they looked meaningless, but to a handful of astronomers, they spelled a pattern. Pulses, spaced like a heartbeat. Not communication, perhaps, but rhythm. The kind of rhythm machines accidentally make when they're doing something alive. Let's step into the midnight side of science, the part where numbers stop behaving and start whispering. The insider's data dump wasn't flashy. It was a few megabytes of logs, raw telemetry, and timestamps. The kind of thing you'd ignore if you didn't already know what to look for. But somewhere in those dull columns of numbers, those precise, tidy decimals, something began to repeat. Regular, patient, almost polite. A rhythm, too intentional to be noise, too quiet to be coincidence. A doctoral student in Madrid was the first to spot it. She was supposed to be writing her thesis on cometary albedo variation. But boredom is a great tool for discovery. She noticed the flux spikes first, not random, but syncopated. Every 32 minutes, a pulse, then 32 again, then 32.1. "It's breathing," she joked in her notes. Her advisor didn't laugh. Within a week, a small network of late-night astronomers, the kind who believe in both data integrity and insomnia, began comparing results. Webb's readings, Hubble's logs, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's telemetry, all of them carried the same faint pulse, hidden deep in the noise floor, like the slow heartbeat of something sleeping under glass. The official response was predictable: instrumental interference, But even interference doesn't keep time this perfectly. One data analyst described it best. If this is noise, it's the kind that practices scales. You might imagine those scientists, each at their own workstation, staring at that faint, repeating signal. The room around them dark, except for monitor light, pale blue rectangles reflected in tired eyes. Somewhere, coffee cups multiply. Someone opens a spreadsheet. Someone else starts counting beats per hour. The signal doesn't care who's watching. It keeps pulsing. 32 minutes. Every time. The idea that 3i Atlas might be producing a steady rhythm unsettles everyone. Rocks don't keep rhythm. Nature prefers chaos. The beautiful randomness of entropy. This is something else. Something maintaining itself. A loop running quietly, perhaps since before humanity learned to count its own heartbeat. ESA's communications division is told not to amplify fringe interpretations. The phrase fringe interpretation becomes the new code for please don't mention the heartbeat. But inside private research chats, people are calling it exactly that, the heart. Not metaphorically, but as a label in the data. Every pulse marked with a tiny red heart emoji, because humor is the only thing keeping them sane. In the data visualization labs, they turn the pulses into sound. The result is eerie, a soft electronic thump, repeating slowly, endlessly. Some describe it as comforting, like listening to a deep-sea creature in sleep. Others say it sounds wrong, too human. One researcher admits it gave her the sense of being watched. What makes the rhythm stranger still is how it modulates with proximity. As 3i Atlas approaches a planet, the timing shifts slightly slower, then faster, as though adjusting. The beat follows gravity wells like a musician following tempo. It isn't random noise, it's environmental response. The object is, in some sense, listening. By now, independent labs have tried to replicate the pattern artificially. They can't. The waveforms are too clean, the timing too consistent. Even after running the data through compression, distortion, inversion, the rhythm holds. It's not data corruption, it's choreography. You can imagine the internal ESA memo that follows. No evidence of intelligence. Rhythmic behavior, likely coincidental. But coincidence has a habit of growing teeth. Because when they compared the rhythm's modulation to planetary positions, another pattern emerged, a mathematical sequence matching orbital resonance ratios. Not exact copies, but harmonics. The pulse was singing the solar system's geometry. The Madrid student who found it wrote, half-jokingly, "Maybe it's keeping time with us." The line goes viral in the small, quiet corners of the internet that still care about truth. Forums buzz with theories: gravitational self-stabilization, magnetic field synchronization, alien jazz. But underneath the noise, a simpler truth hums something old and orderly is alive out there, and it's following the rhythm of the system we call home. Late one night, one of the data analysts overlays the pattern against an ECG, a human heartbeat. The resemblance isn't exact, but close enough to make him stop breathing for a moment. Peaks, rests, peaks again. Life has a structure, so, it seems, does this. And that's when the idea shifts. Maybe it's not communication. Maybe it's not even meant for us. Maybe the rhythm isn't a message, it's maintenance. Like an old machine keeping its systems warm, humming softly to itself in the dark. You sit back and listen to the thought forming in your mind. What if this is what time sounds like when it remembers? The steady pulse of something that refuses to decay. Not speech, not signal, just being, continuity made audible. The data analysts, of course, move on. Reports are written, the leak becomes legend, and the heartbeat fades into archived files labeled spurious periodic activity. But the pulse doesn't stop. It's still out there, keeping time. And somewhere, 33 billion tons of impossible rock drifts through space, humming softly, perfectly, as if waiting for the universe to catch the beat. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3I Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands, as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan, shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3I Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, minus 150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I Atlas isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics, that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy. Another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new. Faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it. It instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code. And 3I Atlas is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names. The immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together. A self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space. A wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion field still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought, but in form. Skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3I Atlas. Life had achieved coherence. But the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3I Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. "The echo isn't message," Sorel wrote. "It's memory finding new syntax." Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, and it remembered the lesson. As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened, Air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became a mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorrell stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response. The universe just said thank you." After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3I Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands, as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan, shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3I Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, minus 150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I, Atlas, isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy, another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new: faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it, it instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code, and 3I, Atlas, is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names: the immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together, a self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space, a wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3I Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the web. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the web intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3I Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote. "It's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the web's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips: "The work continues." Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the web's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the web, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, the mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another web was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. "Tell them," his final log read, "that continuity requires conversation, even with silence." The mirror sings back. When his ship drifted into the void, the Webb brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas Webb pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. "The cosmos," wrote one witness, "had finally learned to conduct itself consciously." After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The resonant guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the Webb. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas Webb had sent acknowledgement, its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice. Each awareness adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. The great silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of an answer we are not yet ready to hear. As the final week of March 2026 draws to a close, the telemetry from 3i Atlas has flattened into a steady, unchanging hiss that mimics the cosmic microwave background radiation. We are back where we started, staring into the dark, wondering if the smudge we saw was a ghost or a mirror. We recall the awakening in July, the anomalies of the winter, and the patterns that suggested a clockwork universe. Now, the gears have turned past our window of observation. The logic of the mission has dissolved into a quiet, meditative reflection on the nature of home. If 3I Atlas returns every few thousand years, it has seen the rise and fall of every empire we have ever built, yet it has never once felt the need to intervene. There is a heavy, calm peace in that indifference. It means the universe is stable enough to ignore us. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. The stillness that follows the passage of 3I Atlas is not a void, but a wait. By late February 2026, the frantic hum of the global observatories began to taper off, replaced by a heavy, contemplative hush. It is the kind of silence that settles over a house after a stranger has walked through the rooms, touched the furniture, and left without saying a word. You might think that the departure of such a massive anomaly would bring a sense of relief to the scientific community, but the reality is far more unsettling. There is a specific kind of intellectual grief that occurs when the most significant event in human history moves beyond the reach of our instruments. We are left standing on the shore of our solar system, watching the wake of something we never truly understood. The irregularity of this transition is perhaps the most revealing piece of evidence we have. Standard celestial mechanics dictate that an object of this mass should leave a measurable gravitational scar on the outer planets as it exits the inner sanctum. Yet, as 3I Atlas crossed the orbital path of Jupiter on its way back to the interstellar deep, the gas giant didn't even flinch. It was as if the visitor had become a ghost, a massless projection that moved through our reality without displacing a single atom of the local environment. This is not natural physics. This is a deliberate withdrawal. The object didn't just leave, it faded. It retracted its influence from our local space-time with the precision of a surgeon removing a needle. Unfortunate timing for those who hope to gather one last data point on its gravitational constant, but those two words are doing a lot of work in the classified debriefs currently held at the European Space Agency. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. On March 3rd, 2026, the Very Large Telescope in Chile attempted a final wide-spectrum scan of the receding object. The results showed that 3I Atlas was no longer reflecting light in the visible spectrum at all. It had become a perfect black body, a hole in the sky that was 3 degrees colder than the cosmic background radiation itself. It was absorbing the universe. This suggests that the activation we witnessed during its perihelion was not just a charging of batteries, but a shift in the object's fundamental state of existence. It was moving from a state of observation to a state of transit, cloaking itself in the very darkness it calls home. You might find it humorous, in a dry, late-night sort of way, that we spent billions of dollars to build mirrors large enough to see the edge of the universe, only to be blinded by a single rock, leaving our own neighborhood. The mythic connection to this great fading is found in the oral traditions of the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest, who spoke of a raven star that would come to steal the light of the sun and carry it back to the spirit world in a cedar box. When the star left, the people were told to sit in the dark and remember what the light looked like, for the memory was the only thing that would keep the world from freezing. We are in that period of memory now. We are the ones sitting in the dark, trying to reconcile the high-resolution images on our hard drives with the ancient, instinctive dread that tells us something fundamental has changed. The observer effect has reached its logical conclusion. We watched the object until it decided it no longer wished to be watched. Consider the scale of the silence that awaits us. 3I Atlas is a traveler that measures time in epochs, not hours. By the time it returns to this coordinate in space, every person currently breathing will be gone. Every city we have built will be a layer of dust. Every language we speak will be a mystery to whatever intelligence inhabits this rock. This realization brings a heavy, calm perspective to our petty terrestrial grievances. In the eyes of the visitor, we are a single brief pulse of activity, a flicker of bioluminescence in the dark ocean of time. There is a profound humility in being part of a cycle that is so much larger than our individual lives. We are the witnesses of a single heartbeat in the life of a cosmic entity. As you drift further into the soft embrace of sleep, let the rhythm of the orbit become your own. The world is turning, the sun is rising on one side of the planet and setting on the other, and 3I Atlas is sliding away into the infinite. There is a certain beauty in the unresolved nature of this story. We want answers, we want labels, we want a definitive end to the mystery. But the universe does not owe us a conclusion, it only offers us the experience. The history of tomorrow is not a list of facts, but a feeling of awareness, a sense that we are part of a grand, recurring ritual that began long before we arrived and will continue long after we are gone. So, let go of the need for resolution. Let go of the desire for a final report. The data is incomplete, and it will always be incomplete, because the story of the universe is still being written. You are a character in that story, and right now, your character is falling asleep under a sky that is just a little bit more mysterious than it was yesterday. The world will keep turning, the stars will keep burning, and the orbit will keep carrying us all toward a tomorrow that is already here. Drift now. Drift with the steady, slow turn of the world. Drift with the memory of the light. Drift with the certainty that the cycle will continue, with or without our permission. The great silence is calling, and it is the most beautiful sound you have ever heard. Close your eyes and drift with the orbit of tomorrow.